Hi, my name is Robert Deem from the Madison County Veterans Video Project. Here with me today is John Walters, who is being the videographer. Our special guest today is Mr. Robert Whitey Hamilton, who's a World War II veteran. We're here today to ask him about his experiences during the war and anything and all he can remember about it. Good afternoon, Mr. Hamilton. We would like for you to start your military experience from the time you entered into the Navy in 1942?
Right, yes.
How did that all start?
Well, like I say, the war started December 7th of 41, and I was a senior at Alton High, so I joined the Navy. I quit my senior year and joined the Navy in 42, and I went up to Great Lakes for my boot training, and 10 weeks later I was headed for Aruba on a tanker on the Saranac. And on the way to Aruba, we had a couple of German U-boats get on our tail. They're just like submarines, only they have to come up ever so often. And we outran those U-boats, went to Aruba, came back to Norfolk and had some radar equipment put on the ship, went down through the Panama Canal, up to San Francisco. From San Francisco we went up in the Aleutians, made 3 or 4 hauls up there, and then the rest of it was South Pacific. And I was in the South Pacific, I think I was on the tanker 23 months.
And a fleet tanker is the boat responsible for supplying oil, kerosene, gasoline
Right,
to the other fleet.
Black oil, diesel fuel, high octane, aviation gasoline.
And you saw some action during all that time, correct?
When on June the 18th, we had 4 Japanese Zeros come in on us, and he was trying to drop a bomb in the smokestack to put our boilers out of commission, and he came pretty close. But had he known that we had all that high octane gasoline up in the bow, dropped it up there, I wouldn't be here telling this story. But fortunately, he dropped it on the back of the ship, and we had, like I say, we had 9 killed, 2 missing, and there's a whole list of guys that were wounded that we transferred off another ship.
Did your cargo explode?
No. Right where the boiler was, where he tried to drop it in and miss, was a sick bay where the doctor had his quarters, and right below it was a mess hall. And would you believe that my general quarters duty was in the mess hall? So it was on a Sunday night at 9 minutes after 5. So when they rang general quarters, there's 8 of us in that repair party. We just sat there, kept eating, and pretty soon one of the guys that was in the steering engine room came up, and he said they just hit the Neshanic. That was another tanker. And about that time, it hit us, everything went black. And when we got up on deck, fire was every place in. We had a guy up in a 40 millimeter anti-aircraft mount and broke both of his arms, and he was trying to get down away from that heat, so he just pivoted his belly on the edge of that tank and flopped down. Of course, when he hit the deck, he passed out, and they pulled him off to one side, and I'd always thought that he died. And I went to one of the ship's reunions, and he showed up, so he hadn't died.
Wow. Now, when you say things went black, is that because you felt the percussion force, or was that due to smoke, or?
Well, smoke and percussion. I mean, here you go into battle the first time ever. I was a little bit
Plus you were 17
Spring.
years old. That must have been pretty scary.
Yeah. Let's see. No, that was 44. I was 18 years old.
You were 18. While you were in the service, did you have any other family members joining or serving in other branches?
My brother Frank, who was killed in the Marine Corps, he left 1 week and I left the second week right after he did. And so my mom, she was a nervous wreck for a long time. And then after she found out he got killed, I don't have a picture of her now, but she got down to around 65, 70 pounds. We thought she was going to die, but she finally got over it when she did die. She had pancreatic cancer, and Dr. Anschutz operated on her. And with pancreatic cancer, you don't survive too much. So
True.
not too long after she had the operation, she passed away.
So she had a lot of stress and worry about you two guys, huh?
And then the next time I was in battle was at Leyte Gulf. That's where I said we took MacArthur back into the Philippines. And that's when the Japanese fleet came out, and I can remember seeing bodies in the water there. Not long after that, there was a transfer came through for a machinist mate third class at the time, and my chief machinist mate, who was my chief petty officer aboard ship, he said, they always called me Ham on the ship. He said, Ham, you think you'd like to have that transfer? And he said, if I were you, I'd take it. So I said, well, let me think it over for a couple of days, and I decided to take it. And so I came back to the States on a transport ship, the President USS Hayes, I think it was. And I came back with a bunch of guys that had lost it.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I remember going to sleep one night. We slept on the deck because there's so many on the ship, and I'd always stick my shirt underneath my life jacket. This one particular night, somebody got my shirt out from under my life jacket. When I left the ship, I had a $100 bill, and I had it all folded up real small, tucked in the side of my billfold. And I had about $20 in the regular part of the billfold. When I went and get into ice cream line the next day, the money was gone out of the small money. But one of the ensigns that had left the ship, he got transferred the same time I did. He said, what's the matter, Ham? I said, somebody got my money. He said, well, here, I'll let you have 20 till we get in San Francisco, and you can pay me back then. So when I got off to where nobody was, I opened it up, and that $100 bill was stuck back in my wallet. Small
That's
change
a good
to start. Oh, I had a lot of experiences that were good, some were bad.
Some of the good ones. You remember any exciting times like poker games or
Well, I'll tell
anything
you,
like that?
Yeah,
There had to be some on a ship.
we had a lot of blackjack games going, and the way it worked there on the ship, if you got blackjack, then you got the deal. And sometimes it's pretty good to get the deal because you either get cleared out in a hurry or you can make a lot of money in a hurry. I remember one night I got the deal, and the next morning I went to the post office and made out 8 $100 money orders. And that was like being a millionaire back then. I mailed them all home to my folks.
So that was quite a winning streak
Yeah,
for that time. So tell me, how hard was it for your parents? You were 17, and you had to get permission from them to enlist at that age.
like I said, my mom simply refused. Finally, my dad said, well, if you insist on going in, I'll sign for you, but I don't want to. But he did sign for me, and that's when I went in.
And this was before you graduated from Alton High.
Right, I quit in my senior year.
And why, here you are in the Midwest, why pick the Navy? It just seems like we're landlocked here.
Well, I'll tell you, there was 3 of us guys from Alton went over. One of them was a good friend of mine, and I think we kind of talked to each other going into the Navy. When we got over there, well, I passed with flying colors, but this one guy, he couldn't urinate, so they sent him back home, and they called me to go into service. Oh, I think about 2 weeks later. But he finally passed, and he spent his whole career down in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, I think. Never left the States.
Wow.
And I used to tease him when he'd come over. I said, "You win the war down in Baton Rouge?"
Only because he couldn't urinate.
Yeah. I remember I went to sleep up on the deck one time with nothing on but my underwear, and fell asleep, and I'm real light-skinned anyway. I got blistered, and I'd say about 6 months after that, they came out with an order that getting sunburned like that was disorderly conduct.
I was going to
But
say,
I-
did you get in trouble for
No,
that?
I didn't accept the trouble it gave me, but no, I didn't have any trouble with the officers then. But they did pass a rule that no more of that sunbathing, getting sunburned like that.
Going back to your brother who was in the Marine Corps, he saw a battle, obviously.
He got wounded at Peleliu, and this is another thing. He got wounded at Peleliu, and my ship was anchored out there, and my mama just wrote me a letter telling me that he was in a base camp there, or base hospital there at Peleliu. And so I asked the executive officer if I could go visit him the next day. We were anchored out there in a harbor, and he said permission granted. So I'm all set to go over the next morning. During the night, the ship got orders to, I guess, to go refuel another ship. But anyway, we got underway, and I didn't
That's a shame.
get a chance to see him. And then, I think April the 12th, Franklin D. Roosevelt died. And May the 12th, my brother Frank got shot with a Japanese sniper, and he was killed. This is his picture right here.
And was he on one of the island jumps
Yeah,
towards
Yeah.
Japan?
he
Okay.
he got killed at Okinawa.
And he was a year older than you?
No, he was, let's see, he was born in 1917, I was born in 25. He was
Oh, he's quite a bit younger.
7 years older than me. 17, yeah, 8 years older than me.
And I bet you have some shrapnel there that's from a bomb that hit your ship,
Yeah,
right?
they had us, everybody turned it in, everybody collected it naturally. And so the skipper passed the word, everybody to turn these pieces of bomb in so they could decide what size bomb it was. They determined it was a 500-pound bomb.
So this was where they were going for the smokestack but hit the deck.
Right, They hit the deck just real close to the smokestack.
Wow, that is just so heavy. The density of that is just amazing.
This is beer.
And so after that bomb hit, then people were scrambling, I guess, to put the fire
Put
out.
the fire out, yep.
Was it put out? Were they going with water at that point?
It was a turbo-electric ship, so that means everything electric. Clock stopped,
Right.
all your motors, but we had a diesel pump right up in the bow of the ship, and that's why I was making my way up there to help get it started. And I have to tell you this story about this one guy. Anyway, we finally got the diesel pump running and got the fire beat down, and we had assistance from another tanker came alongside to help put the fire out, and we transferred our wounded people onto this other ship. I don't know where they went after that, but
Did you use water or foam?
just water.
Water?
We got a guy named Sonntag that was on the USS Oklahoma when it got hit at Pearl Harbor.
Mm-hmm.
And he was all shot up there at Pearl Harbor. And after he got seaworthy again, he was assigned to the Saranac. And I can remember going forward to check on this diesel pump. I seen Sonntag laying there on the bridge, bleeding like a hog, where he got it again when we got hit. And I'd always thought, like I say, I always thought he'd died till I went to one of the ship's reunions, and I didn't see him, but we got word then that he hadn't passed away.
And you were saying that there were over 100 guys on your boat that you got to see again.
Right.
And you and your wife traveled to Gettysburg where you had the party. Huh?
And they'd always have you get up and say what you remembered about the ship. Cochran, who was a chief warrant officer, he was my chief warrant officer, he'd say, I don't know about you, Ham, I wasn't a good swimmer. He said, since you can't swim very well, and we ever get orders to go overboard, he said, go straight to the bottom and run like hell. And so, when I got up and said that, of course we got a big laugh out of that. I was at Long Beach one time, and there was a family from Alton here, and I seen a guy, he was working there in the shipyards. I went down to get some ice cream one evening off the ship, and I saw him. I called him over. He said, my mom and my sister's in Long Beach. Why don't you come spend the weekend with us? So I said, that sounds like a good idea to me. So on the weekends, when I had, well, I was stuck there on a, let's see, I was in a barracks at that time, and I had to qualify to swim before I could get liberty. So somebody said to me, he said, see the numbers on barracks? They're double-deck barracks, and they had numbers on them. He said, just keep looking at those numbers and keep walking. Don't look down or you won't jump. So I kept walking until I fell off the end of the diving board. When I hit the pool there's always guys alongside with a pole to help you along. So that's how I got back on liberty again. It wasn't good not being able to swim.
That was a good story, yeah. Well, it's a good thing you didn't have to go into the ocean.
I still don't know how to swim. Somebody said, I can't believe you put almost 4 years in the Navy and can't swim. I said, well, here's living proof right
It
here.
happened. It happened. Coming home was exciting, right? After the war was over?
Well, when I came home, I had 10 days leave and 5 days travel time. And I was supposed to report in the Philadelphia receiving station. When I got out there, I went into a submarine barracks. There was American sailors on the first floor, English sailors on the second floor, and French sailors on the top floor. And every night somebody'd get into a fight. And so I was going up to the post office this one day, and I heard somebody said, hey, Ham. And I looked, it was one of our our chief electricians that came off the ship a long time before I did. And he said, what barracks you in? And I told him. He said, well, I'm the master at arms, a certain number of barracks. He said, I'll have your gear transferred to my barracks. I said, okay. Well, after I got over to his barracks, I was there about 2 days, and I got orders to report to San Diego to put a new ship in commission. So I gets to San Diego, and the ship was still being built in San Pedro, California. So I was down there in San Diego for, I'd say, about 6 weeks. And we brought small craft in and put them in the dry docks, and we work on the propellers. I don't know, anything that was above water we'd work on.
Well, Mr. Hamilton, this concludes our interview. Thank you for sharing your military experience with it. We thought it was very interesting, and I want to thank you for your service.
Thank you.